Hello and welcome to Untier Talk, where everything's made up and the tier doesn't matter. I'm Megazard. That's a Jad.
Yo, what's up?
Yeah, maybe we should have you do the intro next time. I feel like I always do the intro. They're wearing thin. Anyway, Pyro got banned.
Intro for next time.
Pyro got banned. And
Congratulations.
it's not really surprising. It's not really... I feel like with all the suspects and all the unstableness in the tier, banning a Pokemon should be like a really big deal, a big change, and yet Pyro or Kingler, all I can manage to muster up is, meh, this is what I expected, and, you know, doesn't feel that huge. I don't know if...
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Pyro and Kingler was, like, they're more now a relief rather than, like, oh my god, this is going to free up stuff, you know? Like, not having to think about Pyro or Kingler is going to be big.
For sure. And speaking of not having to think about Pyro and Kingler, I think basically we're just going to do a bit more of a meta talk. So, a lot of people have tossed out, like, a lot of fire types, like, oh, maybe will Ninetales be the next thing, or Rapidash, or Heatmore, Flareon,
Yep.
Magmortar will be, like, different faster mons. Like, well, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because there are so many conflicting opinions. I know I got some ideas, but I want to hear from you first.
So basically, I think now with Pyro gone, people are going to switch to more traditional fire type checks. So stuff that checks pure fire, for example. Like, people will slap Regirock on a team and say, okay, that's my fire resist. I don't need to think about that anymore. So my opinion or stance on Pyro's ban is that Combuskin is going to be the next, or going to improve in terms of viability, because Pyro is basically Combuskin without the need to speed boost or like protect the speed boost, or it had that element where you didn't need to worry. It was pure speed straight out the box, and it also had quite a lot of power. Like unboosted is quite a bit weaker or in comparison to Pyro. So I think Combuskin is going to be the big thing, because Fightinium Z Focus Blast will hit most, if not all, of the new, or like the mainstay fighting checks. So like your Lanterns, your Regirocks. People are going to be just slapping those things on teams and be thinking, all right, I don't need to worry about fire checks anymore. And then Combuskin kind of feeds off of that, especially the special set.
Yeah, I agree with that. Physical also just... I've always felt it's weirdly inconsistent, and you'd like both Z-Move and Firelight, and can't cover things like Altaria, but I do like... And it's really not just Combuskin. All the fire types people are floating have like noticeable concrete ways that they might be breaking through, Regirock or Lantern or Quillfish or whatever the fire check is. Ninetales obviously has Energy Ball and Psyshock and whatever, and Rapidash gets... Is High Horsepower better than Joe Run? I don't remember. Either way, Rapidash has your ground moves.
Yeah.
Flareon has your superpower. Heatmore has like whatever you run. It's got like a billion moves. So I don't know that fire checks are necessarily like gonna actually be able to take on fire types better. It's just more that like these fire checks won't be 100% obligatory. Is like this is what you have to think about all the time. If I want to prep for fire types, I'm not running three different mons to take on all these different kinds of fire type sets. It's just,
That's...
I don't think we're going to see a lot of fire types, though, to be honest. Like, sure, things like Ninetales and Rapidash.
Right now, actually. Yeah.
I mean...
No, I was thinking fire types in general. They're kind of like... They're nerfed already in the fact that Stealth Rocks is so hard to remove in this meta. Like, all you need is Stealth Rock and a Spin Blocker, and it's already really hard for fire types to function. So it's like, where do you go from that? How do you support a Rapidash in this meta? Where you have Quillfish and whatever. focusing on hazards, like really straining for a team. Like if you want rapid spin, defog, spin blocker, your own hazards as well. Like you can easily fill 5 slots up just doing that. So it's going to be hard for fire types to flourish, but I do expect in certain like niche matchups, like if somebody's going to be bringing like a very very bulky style of team, like people who like tend to thrive off using balance, I can see Ninetales and Ninetales in general just like be really useful for that type of matchup in particular.
I agree, but like also that's partially why the best fire type, it looks like Combuskin, it's not the kind of mon that switches out and in a lot. It's like it's more of a one and done type deal. Plus it's not weak to rocks, so that's a big thing. But even when Flareon or Heatmor, Ninetales, whatever, get better, I don't think that they're going to be super common or anything. I think fire types are just going to take a back seat in the meta, which is nice since we don't have Ferroseed to force us to use them, so that's a definite plus.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, Silvally Fire, we didn't touch on that idea
Dude,
either.
I got wrecked by a Silvally Fire in Rex. I got absolutely annihilated by it.
I mean, it just... I can imagine it being really annoying if you happen to not have a Regirock or, anything.
Dude, it wasn't even the fact that I had a Regirock. The thing is, it had Fire, Water, Grass coverage, so it had like Flamethrower, Surf, Grass Pledge, and then Parting Shot. So I couldn't even double switch to like maintain pressure with Stealth Rock. Mm-hmm. So it's like, damn, this thing is like just really annoying to face. It's also got a nice speed tier, which is cool, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, all the fire types have like nice speed tiers or nice priority, whatever.
Yeah.
But whatever. I don't think that just because Pyro has gone, like last gen, we used Monferno because it was like the only decent fire type, and we needed a fire, but also the only decent fighting type, and we needed a fighting type. Like it was far and away the best of either of those. I won't say only decent fire. We had Simisear and stuff. Simisear, I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen here. It's not going to be like, oh, well, I need a fire type, I guess. I better just use Combuskin or whatever. I think we'll just not use fire types, and that's fine because there's so much other cool stuff to use that we don't need to force ourselves to use Ninetales or whatever.
Yep, it's true. Something else that you pointed out is that Monferno was kind of almost like necessary, or not almost necessary. It was really popular in the old Oras meta because of Pawniard. Remember in that stage where we all thought like Pawniard was going to be ridiculously broken and stuff, but because Monferno was being used so much, people just didn't want to use Pawniard, which would essentially you just didn't want to use it in a matchup where you're playing on Monferno.
Mm-hmm. Same with Cacturn.
Yeah.
So other than fire types, that's obviously the big talk. Pyro takes a lot of pressure off of. To my mind, the big ones are Scyther and Frostlass, 2 drops that like I thought were gonna be really stupidly good. Like I thought Frostlass was gonna be like an S rank. This is just crazy, and then Scyther would be like an A+. This is really good, and they're both quite good, but not quite where I expected them to be. And a lot of that was just Pyro just being a little too threatening and problematic for them. But to my mind, those are like the 2 biggest mons that can kind of freely be like, yeah, we're fast, we're useful, get over it.
Yeah. I don't know about Scyther being too good. Like my first impression when Scyther came to this tier, I was like, well, if I have Stealth Rocks up, and because Hazard's control is so like elusive, one could say, is it possible that Scyther could like be really good in this meta? But now I think Pyro leaving kind of opens it up a little bit, because now you can run Altaria quite freely as your fire resist, but also as a as your defogger, as your main defogger, for its ability to beat like Regirock and like Mesprit quite handedly. So I feel like Scyther definitely got a massive. Frostlass, I feel like it was good anyway. Like people ran Frostlass not because like people just ran Frostlass for spikes and spin block all in one slot. I feel like that was the main reason you used Frostlass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Scyther's going to be amazing now, not just because of that, but also because every steel type in existence is still there, and Brick Break just is the best it can do to not suck versus them.
Yeah,
but
dude,
you
see
know,
this fire set that I made up.
it's definitely better.
Yeah, Sword Stance, Endure, Reversal, Aerial Ace with Select Berry.
No, there's just
it's gonna work.
Too
I
much.
swear.
There's too much, priority and helmets and iron barbs to get Amaru and whatever. Like, if your Scyther set is effectively checked by Girder, that's a problem.
It's true. It is check my Girder.
That is a big problem there.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can definitely, if we want to see where the meta ends up, ladder is not necessarily the best or most perfect indication, but I think we will be seeing just a lot of ladder shifts and people adapting to ladder, because PU Ladder Tour, if you guys don't know, is coming out quite soon. So that's probably the place to look. And I almost wonder if because of that, the meta might shift towards Pokemon that are good on ladder. Like the PU meta as a whole, because really the PU meta is whatever people are playing at the moment. And normally we talk more about seasonals and like the main PU meta than like PU ladder meta, which is its own separate thing. But for once they're actually going to be combining, so Pyro or Gone, we might see the rise of, who knows, Shinotic or whatever. Whatever's good on ladder. I haven't really figured that out. I've made Rex twice, and I still have no idea how or why.
Yeah, I'd say Pyro, just as like a brief note to Pyro, like that made speed and wall breaking in one slot way too easy. So I think we'll see more traditional wall breakers like Aggron, Bomber Snow, Aurorus, slower things.
Oh, that too, for sure.
Generally things that, function like as a specific dedicated wall breaker rather than, oh, this can be my speed control and my stall breaker and my wall breaker type of thing.
Mm-hmm. I suppose one last note, because there's really not a ton to talk about here. Currently, our S ranks are Mesprit and Skuntank. And then in A+, we have Aggron, Aurorus, Clefairy, Girder, Sensu, Regirock, and Spiritomb. Although there are definitely some Pokemon I can see rising to A+, Lilligant, Lycanroc, Omastar, Kangaskhan, Quillfish, Frostlass, like, that'll probably change a lot, but do you think that we might be getting another S rank, and what do you think it might be? This is not something I've considered or planned for at all, I just thought of the question, but I think it's worth thinking about. Do we get something other than Mesprit and Skuntank now?
That's a good question. I don't know about other people, but I like Aggron a lot in this meta. Like, I feel like it's, if you want a wall breaker, you just go to Aggron, Choice Banded Aggron, and there it is. Like, no balanced team in existence that I know of can reliably switch into CB Head Smash and any of its coverage moves that it also has. So you're constantly playing 50-50, shenanigans with it. You're constantly, trying to not die to Choice Expanded Head Smash, which is very difficult not to do if you're running a fat team. So I feel like the meta is probably going to shift towards that, or a type of playstyle where, people want to use fat balance, but Aggron is going to be like a limiting factor. You don't want to like sacrifice your matchup versus Aggron just so you can have like more reliability.
I agree. Aggron is definitely like the biggest pick. But I almost want to throw out a dark horse idea as Frostlass might get like much better. I know that Pyroar wasn't the only thing that kept it in check. Pyroar was like its best check, but Frostlass also paired very well with Pyroar. It's not like Pyroar leaving is the only reason. but I really do think that spikes are just going to continue to get better and better. And we are seeing more and more sets and techs being developed as people, I've delved into Z Water Pulse, and there's all these like different fat sets with resist berries, and I've also been running Agua Berry. That's fun, and I cannot say for certain. Don't take this as like a council opinion. This is me just like guessing as the meta develops what might be good. But I think Frostlass might be getting a whole lot better in the near future.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Also, I just wanted to add, just as a like side note or a segue, we have a lot of things like rising up to A plus, as you said, or like A plus, you can see potentially maybe being S rank. What do you think is the most likely to drop back down to A rank or below, maybe? Because I have one in mind.
I really think both Clefairy and Spiritomb might be dropping.
Yeah, dude.
Clefairy
I had Clefairy
much more
in my head,
strongly.
but Spiritomb is also a really good one as well.
Clefairy much more strongly. It's still a really nice mon. The problem is when Clefairy was really good and rose to A plus, a lot of the top wall breakers, not all of them, were things Clefairy could actually switch into, and at the very least, the ones that it couldn't didn't abuse it so well. Clefairy could still chip away at things. Now, a lot of the top wall breakers really give zero fucks about switching into Clefairy. I'm talking about Aggron and Stoutland as the biggest ones. But, Taunt Sensus and stuff like that. Lycanroc, I mean, Clefairy is long overdue for a drop, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I'd 100% agree with that. I think all the rock types as well, all the physical, just general physical powerhouses dropping over to the tier, dropping down the ranks, getting popularity because of Gastrodon and Ferroseed leaving, has just really hurt Ferroseed. Like, it's so hard to like, if I bring in like it's in this scenario in a game. If I bring Ferroseed in this turn, I will lose a Pokemon to Aggron the next turn, so I cannot bring in like Clefairy.
Yeah, it's been up there too long, really. I can't see it. I can see it dropping easily once we do our next update. Not sure when that's going to be, but week or so at most. Really though, I do see a lot. Like if I could just move everything off the top of my head between A plus and A right now, I would drop Clefairy and Spiritomb, but then it's hard because I would also want to move up like Frostlass, Lilligant, Lycanroc, maybe Omastar, maybe Kangaskhan, probably Quillfish. Like I think a lot of things could move around there. A minus. I mean, previously the differences between the A ranks, between A plus, A minus, and even B plus a bit, felt a little bit arbitrary, and I didn't necessarily know where I wanted things because the Pyroar Kingler meta was just weirdly centralized, and it's hard to tell like what you actually do with everything else. But now I think it's a lot easier to tell like what we can start moving around, what's going to get good. Obviously, predictions can be entirely wrong, but I do think we're going to get like a much more cohesive meta than we did.
100%. Can I rant? Is there room for me to rant?
Yeah, one last rant, and then we'll call it an episode.
Okay. So I've heard like a lot of murmurs, I guess one can say, that, or criticisms, I guess people can say, is that whenever PU gets like loads of broken Pokemon or loses a lot of Pokemon, that we instantly, go to suspecting Pokemon as our last-ditch attempt to making like Fat Balance the main like play style. And I just wanted to clear up that essentially we don't do that. We try to make the meta where the best player wins the majority of the time. Like if you're a good player, we want to reward the fact that you're a good player and you don't get cheesed out by something like an Aggron or not an Aggron, sorry, Pyroar or Magmortar or like a Kingler. And we want to reward the fact that you've made the better plays throughout the game. So I feel like people try and like criticize the council or criticize the tier leaders or whatever, just because we're trying to, suspect a ton of Pokemon. When in reality, we're just trying to do what's best for the tier. And we're just trying to, keep things from evolving, I guess, into chaos.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I think Pyroar easily was a blow to that whole better player should win thing with just how diverse it was flowing through your checks. Like, there was really no safe way to play around this Mon. That's even why, like, if you think that, then what do you have to say about me coming out publicly very against banning Kingler? I did not agree with the ban. I would unban it right now. I mean, so yeah, I don't know that people criticizing the tier like that would necessarily listen to this podcast, but if you do, no, that's not the case. Not at all.
Okay, rant over.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty short rant. And a pretty short episode. Well, no. This actually hit over 20 minutes. I'm kind of surprised. Anyway.
20 minutes.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to call it there. It's fine, Pyroar got banned. This should be cause for lots of talk and speculation, but as always, the tier will keep developing and we'll keep talking about it.
Yep.